All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. James Sharman, Justin Pooney, Albert Vartanian. The Miami Heat are in town tonight to take on the Toronto Raptors in a very important play-in positioning game. Welcome back, Kyle Lowry. That's going to get old. We're going to keep saying welcome back.
Well, he's
Kyle.
questionable. We don't even know he's going to play.
Yeah, he's questionable. We're going to revisit the trade. Also questionable for the Toronto Raptors, Gary Trent Jr. Is also, I think, he's probably going to be out in terms.
Will Barton's doubtful.
Will Barton's doubtful with the ankle injury, as you mentioned, Kyle Lowry. We talked about this already, but when it comes down to important games, the Raptors are pretty much set in the play-in. Now it's down to seeding.
Yeah.
Is Miami a team that you want to see in the play-in?
No, because Miami's going to have home court advantage. And I don't think if the Raptors go down to South Beach, they're going to be able to, it's going to be tough sledding to get a win in Miami because we know that Heat culture. And I was listening to Tim Legler on the JJ Redick podcast, one of the best basketball minds out there. And he's saying that, and Bill Simmons has said this as well, that nobody really wants to see the Miami Heat. A Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, Bam Adebayo-led team in the playoffs is dangerous. This team was in the Eastern Conference Finals Game 7 last year. Came a Jimmy Butler three-pointer away to go into the finals, right? Yes, they've had their up and downs this season, but this is a playoff caliber team, a playoff-tested team, and I would not want to play them in the play-in whatsoever. Regardless that their offense is not very good this year, they can lock you down. They know how to play in the trenches, right? And it will be a tough out. And I think tonight's going to be a good indicator for the Toronto Raptors on how they match up against a team like Miami, who has been through playoff wars for years.
Miami, a team above 500. I mentioned this earlier in the show, but Toronto against teams above 500, 20-16. Against teams below 500, 17-22. I've been trying to figure this out all season. Why do they play up to the opposition and down to certain opposition? I can't find the answer. But it feels like every single game.
Is it vice versa? Is it that the better teams play down to them?
Could be.
It could be.
Yeah, that could be an issue
like,
too. I mean, the Pacers, when they came to town, it was like a team coming to play the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night in Hockey Night Canada because all these Canadians, they stepped up, right?
And they did.
But that's not always the case in basketball.
No. And I think especially with the Toronto Raptors, when you look at them, I don't know what their perception is around the league, right? You look at them, yes, they have, some good pieces, but the teams really come into Toronto fearing the Raptors, right? Or do they come in thinking like, maybe we'll take a night off, right? Maybe we don't need to be at our best game because the Raptors are not that great of a team. Now, in years previous when they had Kawhi and when DeRozan and Lillard at their peak of their powers, yeah, you're coming to play one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. You had to come in with guns a-blazing, but now do you really have to, right? Because you know that you see how many times have you seen this year where star players have sat when they come to Toronto?
Yeah.
Remember when Golden State came? They didn't really play anybody. The list goes on.
LeBron
didn't play either, right? So that's interesting, but the Raptors need to take care of business and play a very good basketball game because the Miami Heat are going to make it very difficult for them.
Well, they're struggling with some sort of identity crisis. I mean, we played that Chris Boucher clip from his podcast yesterday, and they're still trying to figure that out in the dressing room, which, I mean, it's hard to be successful if you don't know who you are, right, James?
Well, especially this point in the season. I mean, what's taking so long? I know there were some moves, at the deadline, but I mean, if you're still trying to figure out who you are in, April, when's April? Thursday?
Yeah. It's a Saturday, whatever it is.
Ain't good.
No,
there's some problems there, right? And the wins change everything, but it seems recently they got some big wins, but whenever they get close to that cusp where that 500 level, they just lose that identity and they drop down.
And I think, again, it's just this team is just a mediocre team. And I know the fan base doesn't want to acknowledge that sometimes, but look, there's good pieces here, right? But the team does not come together as a cohesive unit. We've seen it a lot more since Pirtle's been around, but for whatever reason, I just don't think this team works together as a unit, as an 8 to 10 man unit on a night-to-night basis. There's too many inconsistencies. There's too many flaws, right? And that's something that, like you mentioned, they need to figure out their identity and build around that identity and that common goal because that's how you become successful in any sport or anything in walk of life, any business. You have to have a common goal that everybody buys into. And I feel like right now the Toronto Raptors, there is no common goal everybody's bought into.
Well, whose job is that?
Masai Ujiri's.
Yeah, and Nick Nurse's.
Yeah.
Right? At what point does the currency of the championship run out? I'm not saying now it should be. No, you think it's gone?
I think it's gone.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think with ownership,
Masai said it himself.
But Masai's going to say that. That's what he's going to. He's a smart individual. He knows how to work the media, Masai Ujiri, right? That championship, and just a simple fact that he brought the Raptors to relevancy, where they were getting consistently nationally televised games in the States where they never had before, right? They had never been to the Eastern Conference Finals. They had never made extended runs of the playoffs. They never went to the finals. They won a damn championship, right? Masai Ujiri has, since he's been here, has taken this franchise to an elite level. he has so much credit in the bank. He can be in Toronto for however long he wants to be in Toronto, right? And I think that's what that last contract extension was, where they kind of said, look, you run the show, right? You are the Toronto Raptors. You run the Toronto Raptors, right? Masai has enough credit in the bank and, enough street cred, you might have said.
Yeah.
But he's in Toronto for however long he wants to be. But it's going to be up to him to guide this team back to contention, because you can't be fuddling around in the middle for years to come, because it's not going to get you anywhere.
I mean, the fans and people are frustrated, and I think that tells me that they're over the championship. As important as it was, I mean, they're over it. I mean, going back to the identity thing, you are what your record says you are.
Exactly.
And it's hard as well to, I think, build some sort of identity. It's easy to put it on Nurse and Masai, and I think a lot should go on Masai. I don't know if he should be the one coming out and talking about it right now. Maybe leave it till the end of the season. But when you have multiple players who may not be wanting to be with the team come the end of the season, if they don't get the money that they deserve, you can't really build something around that.
No. I mean, who are the keepers for this team?
I just want to know what is the core. I keep hearing about the core.
Yeah.
What is the core?
What can you build around here? Obviously, Siakam you can from a talent standpoint, but does he want to be here in a couple of years?
I want to say the centerpiece is Scotty.
Yeah, I think we all, well, you heard about it at the deadline. The only really untouchable was Scotty Barnes, right? Pascal's name came up in trade rumors, right? Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby. All their names were up in trade conversations except Scotty Barnes. Remember the whole Kevin Durant thing? The Raptors would not move off Scotty Barnes. So we know he's safe. Who else? Who else from this year can you look at and say, you know what? Okay, this is a piece of our foundation that we want to move forward towards.
Right. I mean, the fact that they were in those conversations for Durant in the offseason tells me that Masai is not about to rebuild.
No.
He's going to add, right, if possible.
I think Masai's always sniffed around all these big-name players. There's been Bradley Beal reports. Hell, Paul George came out yesterday and said back in 2017 when he was going to leave Indiana that, Toronto made a call. And this is before they even got Kawhi, right? So Masai is definitely in and around, these deals. But again, the Raptors are a franchise that players aren't running to sign up to play for.
Yeah, Masai doesn't have the same pull.
He doesn't
as some
have
other
that
teams.
pull like the Lakers or the Clippers.
Well, it's Canada. It doesn't have the pull.
Yeah. I mean, Toronto's a great...
Masai, put Masai in New York.
Oh, if
he's gonna, the doors open, come on through. Players would love to play.
The Knicks have always been after him. The Wizards keep on wanting to get Masai because if you bring a guy like that, because he's so well respected around the league, that if he's in a market in the States, he's bringing all free agents to him, right?
Of course he is. The charisma and
Exactly.
the respect he has, but he's living in Canada, in Toronto. At some point, that might get old for him as well.
Yeah.
As was linked last year.
I love his approach, though, where he's not necessarily into a rebuild, even though he kind of went that way in the Tampa season. He wants to figure out things as soon as possible.
Not a rebuild?
Rebuild, whatever the case may be. We're talking about the core and certain centerpieces. Drew Gooden, former NBA player, had this to say about Scotty and Pascal playing together.
They need to make moves. If they want development for Scotty Barnes and feature him as a franchise piece, you got to make moves. I just don't think him and Siakam can coexist.
Do you agree with Gooden there? Do you agree that those two can't coexist and maybe play together on the same team?
Yeah, I do.
So choose it one or the other, or is it Pascal or
look,
nothing?
I think Raptors fans, again, they're very protective of Pascal Siakam, I find.
Every fan base is protective.
Yeah, protective, of course. But I think you want to see what you have with Scotty Barnes. And having a guy like Pascal Siakam insulate him in the first couple years of his career is good. But eventually you want to see what you have with a guy like him. He's a top pick in the NBA draft, right? Can you build your franchise around it? Because, look, Pascal Siakam's getting up there in age. He's not going to be around, as long as Scotty Barnes is. I don't agree with Drew Gooden that they can't play together and coexist. But I do agree with the sense that you want to see what you have in Scotty Barnes and giving him the reins to see how he grows as a player, right? You look at all these young players around the NBA that have become superstars. They were given the ball. Rick Carlisle gave Luka Doncic the ball in his first year. Said, okay, he can handle it. Take it. LeBron, take it, right? To a lesser extent, Cade Cunningham in Detroit before he got hurt, right? Darius Garland in Cleveland, right? You have to see what you have in these young players. And I'm a big proponent of sink or swim. Okay, Scotty Barnes, you want to be the man? Here's the ball. Let's see if you sink or swim as the lead guy.
And that's the problem, right? There are times where certain players can get in the way of other players' development because Pascal wants the ball. For some reason, I'm going back to Denver when Carmelo was there and they brought in Allen Iverson, where Allen Iverson was brought in to help the team, but he was also there to help Carmelo. And he didn't necessarily get in the way of Carmelo. AI ran that offense, but it was all about getting Carmelo going.
And that was a guy like Allen Iverson and Carmelo. They played similar games. Both needed the ball in their hands.
Yeah.
Both are volume shooters, right? Well, Scotty Barnes likes to attack the paint. So does Pascal Siakam, right?
Yeah.
They both need to be in the paint, and that could hinder. Now, then that forces Scotty to be, maybe fall for more jump shots, which his game's are predicated on. He's super athletic, he's got that ability to go to the hole. I want to see Scotty Barnes play bully basketball. Just take the ball and go to the hole every single time. Draw fouls, draw contact. Don't settle for jump shots, which sometimes I think he does because he has a guy like Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, but are they willing to give Scotty that time?
If you want, that's
if Masai turns it around and says, I want to win now, and clearly we saw that from the deadline, can you afford to give Scotty that time if you're trying to win a championship?
This all goes back to the main thing. Do the Raptors have a number one guy on their team right now to help them win a championship? No.
I think Masai would want it to be Pascal.
He would want to be, but is Pascal Siakam that guy?
Well, I mean, when they won the championship, Pascal coming off the bench was great, right? And I think most people thought, wow, this guy is the future of this team. Fast forward 4 years now.
Scotty's his third season.
No, it's just the
Pascal,
championship.
4 years since the championship now.
Oh, 2019.
Yeah. So
4
would you
years.
say that Pascal's reached the heights you thought he reached by now, or has he been a bit of a
Look,
letdown?
I think Pascal Siakam has maxed, reached levels that I don't think anybody expect him to reach.
even
But he
at
said
that
at the
point.
beginning, he said he wants to be a top 5 guy.
We know, but
I mean, it's a great goal to have, but
It's
he's
a great
not,
goal to have, but that's just not who he is, right?
Maybe he is. Maybe it's just not on this team.
He's not going to be a top 5 player anymore. I think Pascal Siakam is a great number 2 option on a playoff contending team and a amazing number 3 option on a championship level team.
And that's what he was.
That's what he was. He was
Yeah,
the number 3
yeah,
option on a
good
championship
point.
level
Yeah.
team that won the NBA title,
Yeah.
right? It's just, I want to see what the future is with Scotty Barnes. I think this core has run its course, right? Sure, keep Gary Trent Jr. He's young enough, right? But I think guys like Fred, OG, and Pascal that have been around the block for a minute, you're going to have to move 1 or 2 of those guys out of town and build around Scotty and go young. But again, Masai has this idea that this core is somehow still a contender in the Eastern
He's
Conference.
not afraid to shake it up, right? He did fire Dwayne Casey after he won Coach of the Year.
And
He
that's
did get
what-
rid of
I
DeMar.
want to see that aggressiveness by
Yeah.
Masai again.
And
That's
I
what made
wouldn't
him
put
so
it past
great.
him. And there's one guy you wanted to touch on, Damian Lillard,
Yes.
who the Portland Trailblazers might be shutting down for the season. He's kind of hinted that maybe he wouldn't want to play with the Blazers if they're going the other way in terms of a rebuild. I posed the question to you off the air. What if the Raptors went in on Dame Lillard? How much would it cost, and could they make it happen?
They're not getting Damian Lillard. He's not coming from.
Okay, does he leave Portland?
No.
Oh, he doesn't leave Portland.
No, he's
KG says he should.
KG says a lot of things, but look,
Hey, put some respect.
KG is one of the
That's a big ticket.
one of the
you're talking about.
greatest power forwards of all
Yes.
time. But Dame is so loyal to Portland, and I think yes, there's those conversations, those difficult conversations they have, but he's owed $216 million over the next 4 years from Portland.
Right.
He signed up for this, right? You can't just, and Ben Simmons did it, but I don't see Dame as a guy to jump ship, right? Portland's going to get another lottery pick, right? But they need to start insulating players and take, because Dame's having a career year.
But he's essentially sacrificing his career by staying on this Portland team.
But is he really sacrificed? He's getting
certain years of his career.
$216
But in
million.
terms, no,
It's about trophies,
you
man,
gotta,
not money.
You got to eliminate the
Come
money.
on.
I'm talking about
about
championships
trophies.
and being on contenders and
But
playing in
that's
the
thing.
playoffs.
But I think Dame is so comfortable in Portland. Same with Bradley Beal in Washington. They're happy getting those max deals.
But then
every
why would
single
he
time.
suggest maybe he's not going to stick around then?
Again,
For
it's
what? There's
all the
the
mind
money's
games
already
of the
there.
NBA. I
What
think
mind games? The money's already there.
I don't know. I think Dame stays in Portland. It's every time he always claims.
I know you share my same love for Dame, and I would just love to see him play on a contender.
Yeah,
I really
let's
would.
bring LeBron out while we're thinking about that show.
I think LeBron should come to the Raptors.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
James Sharman, go to his Twitter. He's just breaking news right now.
Always
Inside
NBA,
information.
you know
LeBron
what I mean?
James.
Yeah.
He's the LeBron James of foot doctors, by the way. That's a ridiculous joke. Okay,
No idea what that means.
Yeah,
after the break, we're going to wrap up the
Stropity?
show. Us three on the Homestand Show.
Podiatrist? What?